Welcome back to SpeakPact. We are so thrilled that you are joining us today. Today, I have somebody pretty special. His name is Richard Bliss, and he has a tremendous following on LinkedIn. And that's by design. He is a master when it comes to social conversations. And we're going to be diving into that a bit. And why does that matter to you as a speaker, to you as an event host? It matters a lot, right? It's all about relationships. And Richard has really kind of dialed in when it comes to building those relationships. So, first of all, welcome to the show, Richard.
Antoniette, this is a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be here. What a wonderful opportunity.
It's so much fun. We're going to have a lot of fun today because I have been really curious about how you have created such a splash on LinkedIn. It's a very big and busy space, and you've really come to a place where you understand how to reach reach your audience, right? And get real communications started, real conversations started. So first and foremost, let me just introduce you a bit. You
Okay.
are a LinkedIn top voice influencer, which is not an easy badge to receive from LinkedIn. So I'd like to hear a bit about that. Your experience in executive communications, and you are a social media coach. I love, even when I go to a doctor, I love when my doctor looks healthy and he's giving me advice, right? If he looks beat up and obese, it's just like, I kind of look better than you. Why are you giving me advice, right? And I think the same is true for there's so many social media mentors, consultants, and coaches out there.
There
And you
are.
will go to their social media, right? And they don't have the greatest following. And so you obviously walk your talk. And so I'm super excited to learn from you. But let's start with, why is this even relevant for somebody who's just really, they're an expert in their space and they're really just interested in connecting with their audiences on a deeper level, perhaps growing their career as a speaker, or perhaps even looking for high level speakers to bring into their events and their maybe corporate programs. What is the biggest relevance for that genre?
I'm going to use a glib answer, and the answer is money. And what I mean by that is on social media, we have evolved through social media, watching it come and change. LinkedIn, I think, is now 20 years old. We've had Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, obviously a bit of a new one when it comes to the overall story of social media and presence. But not 100% of your customers or your audience's customers have TikTok accounts. Fewer and fewer have Facebook accounts. Not everybody has a YouTube channel, but 100% of your audience's customers, 100% have a LinkedIn profile. 100%. Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. And so the question is, why should it be on LinkedIn? Because that's where your paying customers are. People who have money, if you're a speaker, people who have money to hire speakers for events have a LinkedIn account. And that's the way and it's open. You can reach them, you can talk to them. And so LinkedIn has become such a relevant and pertinent platform for building those business relationships. And we're going to talk about this, but the algorithm is completely different as well, because the outcome and desired experience on LinkedIn is radically different than the other platforms as well. So LinkedIn continues to be and is growing in its importance for all of us as business professionals.
I discovered LinkedIn. I mean, I was on LinkedIn for a lot of years. I think a lot of people are just on LinkedIn because if you're a professional, you should be there.
Right.
Right. But then about a year ago, and I just know that it's just the tip of the iceberg. I started discovering the power behind LinkedIn, and I have met the most tremendous people. I've made incredible connections that are transformative, not only for me, but for them, those who learn about me and what it is that I do. So, what sets LinkedIn apart from Facebook and Instagram and some of the others?
Sure. And it comes down to, again, their desired outcome. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, they are trying to make money off of advertising. We all know that. We know we're the product. We know that their algorithms are designed to distract us, to educate us maybe, but mostly to entertain, distract, and
Suck
sometimes
us
even to
in.
suck us in, doom scroll us, and enrage us. Scott Galloway, a professor over at NYU, he's the one who said it. It's the rage economy on those platforms to emotionally drive us to be sucked in and stuck there. And yet not
Wow. I love a
necessarily to
couple
find,
things you said. Doom
yeah,
scroll and enrage us. They feed on our
that,
emotions. That's key. That's really
that is key. But on
interesting.
LinkedIn, only 10%, 20% of LinkedIn's revenue comes from advertising. A small fraction. The rest of it comes from subscribers, people paying money to have access to the platform. LinkedIn Premium, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter. These tools allow business people to gain access to the data that's inside LinkedIn to build stronger relationships. And that means LinkedIn wants to make sure that their algorithm is serving up an experience that makes it worthwhile for us to continue to pay them money. I mean, think about it. If you had to pay money for one social media platform, and let's take LinkedIn out of it, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, would you pay money for any one of those social media platforms to keep it?
A little.
Maybe. I mean, I was thinking maybe Facebook only so I can stay in touch with my mother. But other than
Right.
that, I mean, and Elon Musk discovered that no, people aren't willing to pay money for Twitter. And
Right.
so,
Right.
and I mean, X is kind of whatever. We don't have to get off on that. But the point is that on LinkedIn, people are paying money for the privilege or the access to the features and capabilities of that platform. And that's what sets it apart, which means that their algorithm is not designed to enrage, to distract, to entertain even, but instead to connect us to other professionals around topics that we find relevant, to bring business value to each other. And that radically changes the outcome and the experience on the platform.
Okay. So this is so much fun. I've already taken 3 pages of notes. So what is the difference between a post when we're talking about LinkedIn
Sure.
and a social conversation?
So we are trained that content is king. Content is everything. You have content creators, content influencers. I mean, now I'm a content creator. I spoke to one young person the other day and they said, well, I don't really do that. I'm a content creator. Really? Okay. It's all about content on the other social media platforms. But on LinkedIn, that's not where it's going. LinkedIn, it's all about the conversation. Yes, we can use look, so Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, one of the problems is they're dumping ground for marketing content. People just push as much content on there and just dump it on there, hoping somebody sees it. On LinkedIn, they have actively built their platform to prevent you from using it as a dumping ground for your marketing content. They're looking to see if you're able to establish relationships, conversations between you and your audience, but more importantly, between members of your audience with each other. Can you create a piece of content that starts people talking to each other in a civil, valuable way? If you can, then LinkedIn says this is a piece of content we should share with a wider audience, because there's a secret here that people aren't aware of. And that is when you post something on LinkedIn, it does not go to your followers. It goes to a small fraction of your followers, but it does not go to 100% of your followers. It doesn't go to 90% of your followers. It doesn't go to 50% of your followers. It doesn't even go to 25% of your followers. When you put out a piece of content on LinkedIn, LinkedIn shows it to 1 out of every 10 people who are following you or connected with you on the platform. They show it to 10% of your audience.
Well, that
This
can
shocks.
feel bleak.
Yeah, and get this, if you have a company page, and many speakers should have a company page, but on your company page, it only goes to 2% of your audience. So when you put a
Wow.
piece of content out on your company page and you've got 1,000 followers, 20 people are going to see it.
Wow. Okay. So I do have a company page, but not a lot of followers there. I've got thousands of followers on my personal page. So
Right.
where would you mostly hang out, or on both of them?
So what's going to happen is that on your company page, you have 6,401, 6,401 followers. So when you make a post on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's going to show it to about 600 to 650 people over the life of that post. That's how many people are going to see it with your 6,400 followers. But if you can show the algorithm that that piece of content was so valuable that it started a conversation amongst your followers, LinkedIn's going to show it to an even wider audience. So, for example, if you can get like 10 comments, people talking back and forth in the first 60 minutes of your post going live, 1 hour, the first hour, LinkedIn will show it to a minimum of 1,000 people in the next 24 hours, guaranteed. It doesn't matter how many people you're connected to. It does not matter how many people you're connected to. So 1,000 people. So I'll give you an example. I was doing a presentation this week in Boston. And I had somebody at the beginning of my presentation. My presentation went about an hour. I had somebody make a young intern in the back. FanDuel was in the room. Google was in the room. I might have been Microsoft was in the room. We've got some heavy hitter people in the room. And so the intern in the back of the room made a post. And we had everybody in the room leave a nice comment to her, and she responded. By the time I got done speaking, an hour later, she had over 1,000 people who had looked at that post in 60 minutes. And it was because she started a conversation. Now, it wasn't because these were famous companies, but it was because she started a conversation that caused these people to talk back and forth. That's what LinkedIn's looking for. And here's the interesting thing. They're not looking at your content. Your content is almost irrelevant when it comes to the algorithm. What the algorithm is looking at is how your audience reacted to the content.
Key.
And how do we mostly react to content on social media? What's the number one thing we do to show interaction?
Emojis.
Emojis or click the like button.
Yeah.
And on LinkedIn, clicking the like button indicates to the algorithm that you did not find this conversation or content interesting.
Really?
Yeah, because if you found it interesting, you would have said something, but you didn't say something. You just simply did the least amount of effort possible. You clicked the like and moved on, thereby teaching the algorithm that this content really isn't that interesting. Let's not show it to anybody.
This is so fascinating. So fascinating, Richard.
It's the upside down world of LinkedIn. If you're a Stranger Things fan, it's the upside down world of social media. Everything is the opposite.
Okay, so I guess on the flip side, if you are the author of that post and somebody replies, you don't just press like, but actually reply, right? Physically reply.
Right. Antoniette, imagine that you had just asked me that and I just did this. I didn't say anything. I just did this.
Like.
After a while, that's not adding to the conversation, is it? Every time, that's all I did. So if you post and ghost, if you put a piece of content out there and people start commenting on it and you don't respond in that first hour to 90 minutes, you've indicated to the algorithm that you're not even present, that you just dumped your content on their platform and walked away. And LinkedIn's like, we're probably not really going to show this to a lot of people, because if you're not here to participate in the conversation, why should we show it to anybody? And so this radically changes. So using a tool that automatically sends content out that while I'm not there, I don't have to be there. It automatically does it for me. Yeah, the algorithm is aware of that. And it's going to penalize is not the right word, but it's going to diminish the reach that your content has because you are not present participating in the conversation.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is so much fun. So you're right. It's the upside down. It's the inversion. Am I saying that correct? Of what
the inversion upside down, right?
What we've been conditioned on all the other platforms. Perfect but it's word. Also really beautiful. Conversations is where it's at, right? I always train my speakers first thing out of the gate, right? You're not trying to sell something. You're not even trying to sell yourself or a concept. You are connecting and creating community. And so LinkedIn is perfect for that, which means it's perfect for speakers. So Richard, do you have just top 3 top ways that a speaker could really build their brand? I know you're a brand expert as well. We probably won't even have time to dive into that. And their presence and grow their audience on LinkedIn in a significant way. Because we
Yeah,
both, I mean, I think it's a given that it's an important thing to do. If you're a speaker, you should already know that. But specifically on LinkedIn, how do they do it? And why is it important for them to even care about LinkedIn?
sure. So let's start. Yeah, three things. Let's start first of all with their profile. As a speaker, your profile is your calling card, right, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Now, I see photos. We'll start with the profile photo. That's the first. When I ask people what you look at on somebody's LinkedIn profile, the one thing they don't say is I look at the picture. But when then I ask them saying, is that the first thing you look at? They're like, oh yeah, that's the first thing I look at. So a picture cropped at the collarbone, nose in the middle. I got to tell you, I see a lot of, you would not imagine, you cannot imagine how many wedding photos of men in a receiving line at a wedding in a tux. They think they look good, and men do look good. But just be aware, that's not how you want to present yourself. Cropped at the collarbone. Sometimes I'll see them in front of the Eiffel Tower, and they're this big. It's like, no, I need to see your face. And for
You're making
women,
me wonder, where am I cropped? How did I do?
you're
Like,
cropped right above your eyebrows.
okay.
And
So
so
bring more
again,
center.
center, nose in the middle. Although your photo looks kind of nice because it's got a good look to it. It does kind of look like a selfie that maybe got your arm out there and you took a picture. But here's the other thing: for women, oftentimes they have the exact opposite problem, and that is they want to show off their hair, their outfit, their arms crossed, and so it's from the waist up, and their face is about this big. It's this tiny little oval somewhere in that tiny photo. And what people
Yes.
forget is that 88% of the audience is looking you up on a mobile device. And so that picture of your face is on this tiny thumbnail on a tiny screen. You need to make sure your cropped center, nicely done. Your picture's fine. Your picture's fine.
My business one, I probably did the better, right? This one I kept a little bit more casual, but that is so key. And I notice I always look at the picture
Everybody
first.
does. And then here's the other thing. Lately, people have been using AI to generate a stylized picture of themselves.
Mm,
Now, why do we look at the picture? Because by human nature, we judge people on trustworthiness based on what we see in their face. It
mm.
is it's just built into us that, okay, I'm going to check you out. I'm going to take a look here. You know, maybe it's the setting, maybe it's the lighting, but we look at that face. And if you've used a fake AI generated image, you have automatically undermined the trustworthiness of the perception of who you are.
Ooh.
Because I looked at that face to see a person, and instead I see a fake AI picture that's perfect, but you could have used any AI pictures. You could have that might not be you. I don't know. And now all of a sudden, trust has been eroded. Now, we can blur it out and maybe, fix our hair. My photo, the latest one I just had, I got a big old alfalfa thing sticking up. So he took that out. That's slightly different than an artificially created image. So for your audience, I'm going to encourage them to have a very professional, but real picture of them. That'd be number one. Here's number two. We're still on the
Can I
profile.
say
Yeah.
something about that real quick? Because that is so key. I love that you said that. In this world of AI, I think this is really important, especially when it comes to speakers, right? Know, like, and trust, and that third party validation, which is another thing that LinkedIn is really great about, because people like to make introductions, and
Mm-hmm.
who you're connected with on LinkedIn can almost feel like third party validation. It's really
Mm-hmm.
key what you said with regard to that eroding trust by getting hip, I guess. Recently, a little bit different, but kind of along the same lines. Recently, we thought, oh, hey, I'm booked all the time, right? And my poor post production guy needs my voice sometimes, right? And I just don't have the time. So we utilize an AI app where I can speak into it, and then he can type in a few words and it'll speak for me. And you're right, Richard. It sounded just like me, but it didn't feel like me. And I don't even know how to put my finger on it. So the picture, the AI generated picture probably looks just like you, but it doesn't connect like you do.
No, I think Descript is one of the tools out there that allows you to type in. You give
That
it
was
your
it.
voice.
Yep.
Yep, it's a great tool, especially if you're doing something that doesn't require that trust factor to be kicked in. If it's just training and it's like it's just me in here, a feature change, so something I said something wrong. Anyway, that trust is critical. Here's another thing for your speakers: the banner behind them. I see a lot of speakers with good intentions fill that full of text, their call to action, their signature, their URL, their phone number, all of that in that banner. Okay. First of all, 88% of us are using a mobile device, but 83% of us are using a desktop or a laptop to create the banner image. So
Mm.
on my big 40-inch monitor, that banner looks perfectly readable. On a tiny mobile device, that text is now impossible to read, especially when you do a pink on pink or a purple on purple or a gray on gray font where you kind of get, and then you got the cursive and it's all
Mm-hmm.
that graphic. There's a difference between a graphic artist and a graphic designer. A designer is going to say that is not functional. Nobody can read that. A graphic artist is going to say, look at that pretty font and the colors and look what I did. And then a graphic designer is going to say, nobody can read it. And so look at your own profile on a mobile device to determine if that information is being lost, thereby frustrating your audience. Also, anything you're putting in that for text purposes cannot be acted on. Let's suppose you put your phone number up there. How do I record and capture your phone number now? I'm on my mobile device. I'm trying to look you up and I see your phone number in there. Let's suppose it's big numbers so I can read it. Now, what am I going to do to actually capture that phone number?
QR code. If it's just the phone number on there, I have to
It's on my
write it
phone. I'm looking
down.
at your profile on my phone. I'm going to have to
Yes.
go get a piece of paper
Yep.
and a pen and hold my phone and
Who
write
has
that
those
down.
anymore? What are those?
Right? I'm going to have to kill a tree. My point here is information in that banner is unactionable. People can't act on it. So my recommendation is use it as a branding tool, not as an information conveying tool. You can put that information
Mm.
everywhere else that they're looking. But remember, this is your opportunity to impress with a visual image. You're a speaker. And speakers all know, nobody ever remembers anything we said. All they remember is how we made them feel. And so if I can't read that, I'm just frustrated. Already, you got a fake image and you got a banner image that I can't read because I got my freaking mobile device and I can't read it.
Yeah.
Now suddenly I'm growing frustrated with this interaction and we haven't even started a conversation yet. So these are some key, those are two things to look at on the banner as a
So,
speaker.
what are some examples of what a speaker could put back there? Maybe an action shot of them speaking. For me, I've got.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Action shot of them on stage, close up. And not far away with them tiny, close up where it's obvious you're on stage, but I can see that it's you
Mm.
in action, speaking to the audience. Little microphone, the microphone next to your mouth. You've got a clicker in your hand and you're standing there and you're presenting out to the world, right? You don't have to show that it's a massive audience that you're speaking to. That can be helpful. There are other places you can put that in your profile, but for that, let me see you in action. Let me get that feeling of, oh, I'd love to see her on stage in front of my audience.
Okay. So good. So for me, I have logos of
You
places I've
do.
been featured and places I've spoken to. Is
And
that?
they're
Yep.
easily recognizable. I can see them on my mobile device, and it has an impact of validity and validation that, hey, I need to talk to this woman. She obviously has been endorsed or pre-qualified by other organizations. So
Okay,
yes,
I love that. So brand with your banner. Don't try to give information
right.
with your banner. Okay. So what if you have an event coming up? Can it still
If you
still same?
Yeah, I would stay away from changing the banner. There's a featured section you can update on your LinkedIn profile. use that. If you have an event coming up, drop in a little, let's suppose you're speaking at a keynote next week or in a month or so. And okay, do a short little video, put it as a feature so that say, hey, I have an upcoming event. Let me tell you about what I'm going to talk about. Do your own teaser and put that in as a video in your featured section. Or if there's a registration, put a registration link right there in your featured section so they can go see the event. There are all kinds of other places that are more readily designed to communicate the different types of content that you want people to know. But that would
Okay,
be one.
so good. And I know on Facebook and Instagram, different places, it's kind of a big thing to change your banners, change your photos like pretty often, your feature photo. With this, where you're really trying to make connection and brand identification, should you keep your photo and or your banner the same for long periods of time? Like what's your kind of ground rules for switching those out?
You grow tired of your banner and image long before your audience does. I mean, think about this. If I was looking you up this month, because I have an event in September, and so I'm looking you up this month, and then next month I go to look you up again, people don't realize, but they actually don't read the words. They look for the image. So if your picture has changed significantly in that month, I might miss you because I'm looking for, yes, I'm looking for the name, but there might be a whole lot of people with the same name. I'm looking for your picture that I recognize because the image stayed in my brain. That's one. Two, from